I wanted to ask you. I guess I'm gonna ask you on the podcast, but I want to ask you. You really liked Alan Wake, and I was gonna ask you how much into Alan Wake 2 are you going to get? Are you gonna really try to play it? Should I try to play the first one and this one, or should I just try to play this one, or what?
Okay.
All of the above. Okay, I'll just do that.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about entertainment, video games, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, Joe, and with me, the man who reminds everyone why there are 31 dry counties in Arkansas, Nick. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fine. The reason why there are 31 dry counties in Arkansas is because Baskin Robbins was started in Arkansas, and Baskin, the original, Robbins, Mr. Baskin, he he was very. Have you ever seen the number 23? Well, that movie is based on the life of Mr. Baskin, and he was obsessed with the number 31, though. Said they had to change it so they didn't get sued, but he was very obsessed with the number 31, and he was in control of Arkansas for a really long time. He was the governor for I think 28 years, um, in the mid 1900s, and he made a rule that there had to be 31 flavors. He started that company, and then he said there had to be 31 dry counties in Arkansas.
Okay. According to the Wikipedia page, it just said there was a terror child who caused lots of mischief and mayhem, alcoholic debauchery, but due to being a minor, they couldn't release their name. So I just assumed it was you. So,
That is hearsay and nonsense, and I will sue anyone that disagrees with me.
all right. Well, I'm just saying you have 44, counties to go. So, you're not quite even halfway there. You can
Seriously
make it a
though,
dry state.
I did grow up in a dry county, um, and it was dry for a super long time. But except for one place, the country club had it was a private club, and it was you had to have a membership there, and they had alcohol. You could sell alcohol and buy alcohol there, but only if you were a member. Well, they only let certain kinds of people be members there. So eventually, like the restaurants started to figure that out, and there was one restaurant downtown that that kind of let loose the floodgates and started their own club, and all you had to do was like pay like I think they were saying like you had to pay like $50 a year or something like that. You'd be part of the club, and then they started selling alcohol, and then it was kind of like every place had that. I don't even know if they do it now. I think it's still a dry county, but yeah.
There's still actually quite a few there. I just remember the couple times I visited, like right before you hit a dry county, there's like 10 last chance liquor stores right before the county
hmm
border. Yeah, I
There
thought that
is
was
the
hilarious.
the biggest liquor store in Arkansas is, um, I think, I think that it's like a mile or on the line. Like I think it's on the county line for the county that I grew up in. And this one guy, the guy that gave the guy that gave our graduation speech, he referred to. I'll just go ahead and say it because it's just funny. So the town next to where I grew up is called Maumelle, and they had Lake Liquor, which is the biggest liquor store in Arkansas, or was. And so he referred to the back roads to get there as the Maumelle Express. And it's funny because it is like a straight shot, like no lights, no nothing, just like 60 miles an hour. There you can get there in like I don't know 15, 20 minutes. It's funny. Anyway, but
Yeah.
video games
So
anyway. Yeah,
yeah, how have you been, man? It's been a couple weeks, so
good,
sounds like you've had a good time.
good. Yeah, I went home to visit the Arkansans, and then came back. It was fun. It was good. It was good. How about you? How about you? How you doing, Joe?
Extremely tired. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Got to do the Memorial Day weekend. Just doing boring ass lawn care. But a
Mm,
buddy came down, helped me out, and had a good time with that. So as far as doing yard work can do, yeah, super great. No, it's things aren't bad, so can't it's like all in all, it's all right. But yeah, it's so we've had here a little bit of news. This last week's been a little bit of dry, but the week before we had the PlayStation showcase. So we have quite a bit of things that we haven't got a chance to talk about. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about these.
yeah, so we're gonna dive in, I guess. So the biggest thing from the PlayStation Showcase is this happened back on May 24th for whenever you're watching this. But the biggest thing that people pulled out of it was the hardware. At least that's the biggest thing I got out of it, I guess. And that is the Project Q that PlayStation is doing, which you'll fill in the gaps if I get anything wrong. But it is a handheld screen. Um, with a controller, with basically a split in half PlayStation controller on each side, and it's made to stream games on the same Wi-Fi network that your PS5 is on. So yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, so if you wanted the Wii U experience, but for PlayStation, there you go. I mean,
okay.
and it's one of those it's things that uh it's a very niche product, I feel. I mean, I can see it in a household that, you don't like if you're fighting over a TV, it's like yeah, if you only have the one and then one person can be playing the TV and you can still be playing off this. Um
I don't
I
know if you
wonder how much
can though.
better was that?
I don't know if you can though. Can you?
Just I'm saying if it was a different console on
Okay.
the TV, because I know a lot of people do the PlayStation like app, so you can stream it to your phone because this is pretty much like a backbone or one of those other controller devices that you hook up your normal phone to. Because yeah, you can just what's stopping you from just streaming it to your phone, streaming it to your tablet that you have already? Um, I mean, the form factor and the feel seems like it'd be pretty comfortable.
It looks nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, but you got the screen's supposed to be LCD, so we'll see exactly how the quality that is. Um, for a house with kids, I would look at it as being way too way too sketchy for my like. I'd be more worried about it being dropped or picked up, and
Uh,
damaged
it
because
looks
it's
it,
very much an exposed screen.
Yeah, that screen is sticking out there. It looks like you would set it down and step on it on accident like one time and just snap that controller right off of there.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious the build quality on this, but yeah, I mean, there's some people who really like it, or if any, it's kind of like them trying to be a Switch competitor, I guess, uh, in a
Yeah,
weird way. But since you're having to stream it, it does, like people leave their systems connected to their network and like try to stream their stuff from a hotel room onto their computers, and like try to play, some if it's not a like fast-paced first-person shooter, apparently that stuff works pretty solid. So
but
I haven't had much luck with it personally.
I mean, like for this, I think you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. So like, like you can't go to a hotel room and leave your PlayStation on at home and then like stream it. That would be cool. I'm sure there's probably security risks, but anyway, like I'm just trying to figure out like who this is for, the way this would really work. And I guess if you're a family and the biggest TV is in the living room and the PlayStation is hooked up to that TV because you're like, let's say you're 12 and you're trying to play PlayStation, and then like mom and dad, well, they want to watch a movie and everybody else wants to watch a movie, so they're going to use the big TV, but you don't really want to move the PlayStation, then this would be like a cool thing to do. Or if you're supposed to go to bed or something, I mean, it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, how much is that worth? To me, that is worth like at a stretch, like $100. Like, and that's
Yeah,
only if you could use
I,
it as
I would
another controller,
I
you
would
know?
say 1 to 150. It'd be comfortable. I think most people would be comfortable spending, depending on the quality of screen, how much extra battery life you get, because the controllers themselves go for what, 70, $70 roughly, $80
Yeah.
sometimes. So then you're talking about, actually strapping on a screen to it, and then preferably having an okay battery life, because the controllers aren't the greatest for battery. I mean, they're not terrible, but
Mm,
uh, but I realistically think it'd come out for 200. I think that's what
yeah.
they're going to gouge people for. But yeah, and I think you're exactly right though. Like, well, if you want to take it to bed, and then be able to lie down, look at it, and then put it just at the nightstand next to you, that would be a good way, instead of having to turn on the entire TV and annoying, if you're with someone, annoying whoever you're sleeping next to, or yeah,
That just
I
made me
mean,
think of the other use case. Like if you're in college and you're in like a dorm room and you have like someone literally sleeping like 15 feet away from you and they're like, dude, I got to go to bed. I got to like wake up in the morning and take a test. And you're like, okay, well, I don't have class till noon. So I'm going to like keep playing my PlayStation on my own little screen. That's like a real use case that I could see. But, but yeah, like you're right. Like I just don't see how many people are really going to
Yeah,
jump for
I'm
that.
just curious how much better it is than the current, streaming to your phone, and then just
With
buying a
yeah,
controller dock. So
yeah,
that's
that would,
but I think it's like an 8-inch screen or something like that. So it's supposed to be a pretty decent size, and yeah, that is interesting. I think Sony also announced a few other small pieces of hardware, like the
oh yeah,
headphones, like earbuds, and I can see those being comfortable for people who want a better quality headphone for their VR2. So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm kind of wondering how. I'm kind of wondering if they're, uh, dabbing into that other markets. Like, hey, these are cool Sony headphones. If you
Well,
need,
they've already made that push. They've made a couple of higher, quote unquote, higher end over the ear headphones, and they've also started doing like monitors and stuff like that.
yeah, it's sort of,
Um,
yeah. I guess it's just like Sony already makes that stuff, so now they're making like a PlayStation branded. I don't know. It's
yeah,
it
they're
makes
making
sense
the
and it also
actual
kind of
PlayStation
doesn't.
brand.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's
So
what they're going for is trying to keep that brand strong. Anyway,
all right. But yeah, so they actually, the showcase was kind of nice in my opinion, in the fact that they showed a lot of games back to back. It was a little weird because they did an like a kind of a thing in the front saying, like, just a blatant, like, these are, this is going to be on hardware unless if stated otherwise. Usually they do a really good job in front of every trailer saying, hey, this is a cinematic, or this is, in-game engine.
yeah,
But
not gameplay footage. Yeah,
yeah, so they actually did something. They just did a kind of a blanket statement and didn't really explain. Sometimes when you're looking at things, you're like, not quite understand. Like, is this supposed to be in game? That is this supposed to be, is this a pre-rendered scene? You're not really 100% sure. So they kind of flubbed that a little bit. It was just a little more awkward. But as a whole, at least the pacing was really solid. Maybe the quality of the content wasn't quite there. Um, but yeah, I'm curious what you thought of the actual showcase as a whole. So, I mean, you have a list of the games that you found most interesting. So yeah, let's shoot from the top.
yeah. So like as a whole, I thought it was good. There was only one thing in there that was like the Five Nights at Freddy's VR thing, where I was like, I don't really need that at all. But I mean, I understand that it's popular or whatever. But everything else seemed like either good or something that I would not hate to play. Obviously, I wouldn't buy everything on there, but everything was like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of not something I would look for, but it's interesting to say the least. So it was a good showcase overall for that kind of thing. For in terms of like a once a year type blowout showcase, I don't know. It's maybe it's a little bit of a slow year for Sony because they've had some pretty banger years in the past. With God of War 2 coming out and some of the other stuff that's been coming out. So I don't know. Everything is good. Nothing is I'm just looking at this list. Nothing is really making me say, "Oh, I got to go out and buy that." You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's some of these were, most definitely some decent surprises, and other ones were have me interested. But for the most part, I don't know, there's not like your quote unquote system sellers, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think we're
all
between
right,
years and some of that stuff, but yeah.
something like that. All right, so the first one you have down here is you put down is Helldivers 2. This one was a pretty funny trailer, I thought.
Yeah, that was funny. Very Starship Trooper esque.
Yeah, for sure. You ever get a chance to play the original Helldivers?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same question. I did play a little bit of it. I think it was free on PlayStation Plus for like a hot minute, and I grabbed it then. I played a little bit of it. It is cool. Um, I, I liked it. I didn't really get to play too much of it. It's pretty technical, and that's kind of what makes it fun in a weird way. But this Helldivers 2 is probably going to be a lot of that, but instead of the isometric, it is now going to be a like a first person, well, or maybe like an over the shoulder kind of shooter game. And I don't know. I think I don't know if it's going to lose some of its charm because of going that way, but it looked interesting to say the least. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. I did play a lot of it actually. I played a lot of it in like the weirdest situation possible. Is we were staying at a hotel for a couple months while while moving for homes and trying to find a new home, and like or trying to buy a house,
Mm.
and instead it was just we were kind of on a time crunch and we didn't really want to live in an apartment for too long, so we stayed at a like just a long term hotel, and so we paid for their upgraded quote unquote upgraded Wi-Fi, and so we generally needed a game that did not take a lot of bandwidth to play with our buddies. So we found this game and we're like, yeah, let's give this a shot, and we got really hooked on it. We There was a few of us that would play, and it was for the most part pretty reliable as far as not needing a lot of bandwidth on that one. And yeah, they have the isometric, Diablo style gameplay, but then yeah, the technical aspects you're talking about having to remember button combinations in order to call down equipment and do certain actions, and then easily being able to accidentally murder each other
Dude, yeah.
was pretty hilarious. Um, so yeah, this game, it looks like I think it's going to be a third person. It looks like, um, action game, and you know what? So long as they keep the right aesthetic and there's some of that whimsy of like, hey, I'm doing an ammo drop and accidentally crushing your buddy by it. It's like, oops, sorry, man.
Yeah. Yeah, they
So
thread the needle really well in the first one. So if you can kind of still do that, then I think it'll be good. I am looking forward to grabbing that and hopefully being able to get some games going with some people. It should be fun.
yeah, I'm very positive about this one. Even if it's not as good as the first. I mean, if it's even comes like it can probably make it like 60 or 70% there, it'd still be an enjoyable game, I think.
Yeah.
That just speaks to volumes of how much I really like the first one. But yeah, and then you have the next game you have up in here is Phantom Blade Zero.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, you have here anime Sekiro.
Yeah, that's the note that I have. It's not super anime. It's not like, 2D, it's 3D, but like all the characters in it they look like the main guy and the main girl. They are both rather pretty. But it looks like a pretty cool game. Um, it has a very Sekiro feel. Probably not going to be that difficult. Hopefully not that difficult. But it is, set in sort of a fantasy feudal, you know, I guess Japan, Asia of some kind.
I was getting more Chinese vibes from it,
Yeah,
but
I
it could very,
I did get
so
that. Good.
I mean, but I thought I'd be more. I felt that it would probably be more on the Souls esque, like harder difficulty. So that like, but then as they showed more gameplay, I'm like, well, if they lean towards more of a Devil May Cry action,
Mm,
stylish action game, then I'm like, I'm totally down for it. But chances are, I have a feeling it's going to be more Sekiro or like Neo esque or something like that. And
yeah.
I I just don't have that kind of time to get into a game. But they did make it look really good. Those scenes, they showed a lot of flashy bits to it. So.
Yeah, it
Uh,
looks like it'll be more flashy, more fun than a Sekiro or even a Nioh, a Neo rather. I always want to say Nioh. So if you're, I didn't think about that. If they can lean toward Devil May Cry, then yeah, that'd be a nice little niche for them to fit in. Because I feel
yeah,
like Too Serious is already taken, and Devil May Cry and other stuff like that kind of already has that one. So if they can thread the needle just a bit and really get like, okay, this is kind of difficult, but it's also just sort of wacky and fun too in this weird fantasy world. That could be a good game. It's actually one of the games on here that I'm probably looking forward to the most, exploring the most, or looking to see how it's going to develop. I'm sure there could be a trailer comes out that makes it look really bad, but I'm at least anticipating what comes next from it.
yeah. I mean, if it can be essentially the Asian God of War, that would
Mm,
be. I think that would be fine for me. But I think at the same time, I know a lot of people like a Souls or harder difficulty. So
yeah,
if they can maybe do something in between, that would be, I guess, the sweet spot. But I personally want a God of War style game. I think most people would prefer something of a Souls like. So we'll see. But yeah, and here, right on the next one, you have uh, the Sword of the Sea, which is you aptly noted Journey 2.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So this is like, I think before the podcast, I said Journey to Surfing USA or something like that. It's like you're on a sword and you're just surfing around, and then at the end it has you on like a triangle point and just sort of at least a avatar character is there on the triangle point just kind of chilling. It looks cool. It just looks like more journey-ish game, Abzu type game. um, I'm sure it'll be short and sweet. It looks pretty, but I mean, I'm just a little bit jaded about it because this game keeps coming out. I think the studio or the guy that made Journey and the other games continues to make these games, and yeah, they're just not very different from each other to me. So I'm just kind of like, okay,
Dude,
cool.
Journey, you're in the desert. Abzu, you're underwater. How much more different can you get?
You got me. I I confess I was wrong.
No, this one though totally got the Journey 2 vibes. It's like certain cinematic aspects look like it was just ripped straight from it. If you were telling me that he was going back to the same set pieces, I would totally believe you. You know,
Mm,
uh, because yeah, some of it's like, oh no, most definitely that exact shot. The difference is you're riding the sword instead of riding on the sand itself.
yeah.
Um, and being on the sword is very much a like a Chinese anime trope. So,
You're right.
in fact, I've mentioned on our anime podcast, the Daily Life of the Immortal King. That's actually a very common like mode of transportation is just to have that Chinese longsword, and they just use magical powers to float on that or to ride that. And so that's very much what this reminded me of. And I'm like, uh, it looks like it'd be fun, but I don't think it will have the magic or the whimsy of Journey, because like the first time playing Journey is always a special thing for but everyone's play has a different gameplay value to it. Um, so that's always interesting to see. But I'm like, because you kind of know the beats and the pacing, I'm curious what they'll do differently with this.
Yeah.
I did not get a chance to play Abzu. I have it on like multiple platforms. I just have not got around to it, and I've heard nothing bad about it. So it's just one of those things that maybe so. I'll get around to it eventually, which I probably won't.
Well, like these games, they're not offensive because they're just so short. I mean, I'm pretty sure Abzu is extremely short as well. So, they're not really, then they're cheap. And so, and they're nice. They don't overstay their welcome. I would just like to see, I don't know. Whoever this guy is, I forget his name, but you got to make money, and whatever the studio is, you've got to make money. So, and people want to see more of the same from the same studio. So, I get it. I would like to see something different, but I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah. Uh, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, as Journey was one of those defining games where you could have an argument about games being art, and
Yeah,
I
it did
think it
kind of open that
holds
up.
true. But yeah, we'll see. Hope cautiously optimistic on this one. And yeah, the next one we got is the Plucky Squire. Yeah, tell me about this one because I really don't remember it off the top of my head, which
Well,
obviously is not
it, it,
like
it
leaving a good memory.
it looks like a kid's game at first, and all the way through the trailer. It is very like childish, but the thing that caught my eye about it at first was the fact that you start on like a 2D like children's story map, and you walk around and you do stuff, and then they're showing you that, and then you break through the top of the map
Oh,
and you
this one. Okay,
go into
yeah. Okay,
3D.
sorry. Continue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you go into 3D and it's still sort of Toy Story looking, 3D, and you're walking around and I think you are a toy or something like that because the world is like there's like you fight a beetle or something that's giant, but and all the toys and stuff are giant or something like that. And so, I saw that and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, but this game looks like it's for kids, but it also that's kind of an interesting sort of thing. And then at the end, they show the Plucky Squire, and then in the left corner it says Devolver Digital, and I was like, okay, so I'm really wondering if Devolver Digital makes a lot of weird ass games, some pretty good, some not so pretty good, but they do interesting things. So this looked like it had decent gameplay and like it was trying to get you to think it was one thing, but it might be something else. So I am curious about it.
Yeah, this actually gave me Puppeteer vibes.
Mm.
So on the PS3, there was a game called Puppeteer where you played uh like a puppet doll in a theater stage setting, and that was it was a pretty whimsical game. It had some two-player aspects to it. I can't really remember too much about it off the top of my head, but it was yeah, I just remember that being a fun and unique game that kind of looked like a child's game, and that's what this reminded me of a lot of.
I see what you're
So
saying. Yeah, it does have that. It does have a similar vibe. I think obviously, the one that's coming out is going to be way more technical.
yeah,
But
we're
it,
talking about an older PS3 game
it's
that
like
came out in
two
I forget
generations.
2010 or something.
It's literally like
So
it's literally like 13 years later, Nick. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, this is a good callback because this is a similar vibe. Yeah. So that one looked interesting to me. But just mostly like if I didn't see Devolver in the corner there, I would have said, looks cool, looks like it's not for me. But since it's Devolver, I'm like, I smell something weird going on here.
yeah, Devolver is always even if they're not even if they're just publishing the game, that's always still worth looking at.
For sure.
So for sure.
Yeah.
All right, then you have here listed. Oh, you listed the Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater.
That's right.
Or you were kind of questioning the Delta symbol, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a delta. I was going to ask you, like, that triangle. I mean, it's a triangle, but it's really like a delta symbol, right? Am I confused?
Yeah, but it's just them rebooting Snake Eater.
Okay.
I found a comment that was really funny that I had to take a second look at. They're like, "Why is the bandana fused into his
I
forehead?"
noticed that too. I saw that. I was like, why is the bandana perfectly shaped like his forehead wrinkling? Like,
Yeah, it's essentially it looks like he has face paint on, and then but it like moves to the bandana in the back because the bandana is perfectly formed to the wrinkles of his brow. Um, yeah, so I don't know. he's learned from the Ninja Turtles, I
It
suppose.
doesn't like it looks right, but then when you really look at it, you're like something is wrong here. But
Yeah, that bandana is too darn wide for his forehead, and but you can't see the rest of the band. It's not like you see a strip of bandana and it's just like the
yeah,
camo makeup. It's literally the bandana just covering way too much ground.
yeah.
Uh, but
Well,
yeah, I
go
mean,
ahead.
this has been rumored for a little bit beforehand, so it wasn't that surprising. Uh, and they only showed, a cinematic. So it's like, yay, I guess. I know a lot of people are more interested in trying to get Metal Gear 4 remade because the only way you can play that is off of a PS3 hardware.
Oh wow.
And because one of the bigger takeaways of this trailer was that they're bringing Metal Gear 1 and 2 also onto they're redoing collection, and it said volume 1, which means that volume 2 uh potentially could have a 4, but they'd probably have stuff like acid and some other things like the Metal Gear portable game, stuff like that for PSP.
Yeah.
So that's probably what the volume 2 is going to pertain. But people are really hopeful or slash wanting a way to play 4 again, uh, and that's probably one that deserves a remake more than most because it's so old, but also it's like there could be so many things you can do better for that. Most people, that game broke a lot of Metal Gear fans just because of this long cinematics. You're talking about like 15 minutes plus of people just talking back and forth and you just putting down your controller. um,
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. I
People.
never finished that one, and it's kind of a regret, but at the same time, I'm like, that's a chore. You're asking me to go suffer through a lot of nonsense. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, how long is that game? Just like on a regular playthrough.
I honestly don't remember, but if you were to tell me that game is like 60, 80 hours, and like half of that is cutscene, I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know
so
that
yeah,
MGS2 was a lot. Was a lot of cutscenes. Back in the day. But yeah, it's yeah. We've known that Konami was going to be continuing the Metal Gear franchise for some time now without Hideo Kojima. Um, uh, they've had some, they've done some, what do you call it? They've done some pachinko machines. I think they had another bad game that came out in relation to it. I forget,
Well,
but
so what they
this
did is they used the Fox engine for Metal Gear Solid 3 to have special cutscenes for the pachinko machine.
okay.
So that was so yeah, it's kind of weird that way. It's undetermined yet whether or not they're using the Fox engine for this remake. Once again, they didn't show actually any gameplay footage. Um, and three is a pretty solid favorite by a lot of people. And it's like I like 3. It was one of those things that I didn't really care about needing to have a backstory to Big Boss, but at the same time, I think it's really when it embraced it's like I felt like 2 jumped the shark, and it was just jarring in a lot of ways.
Mm,
And then 3, by the time you got to 3, you're like, okay, now I understand what I'm getting into. I'm ready to embrace the silliness of it all. Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, I liked 3 quite a bit, and then like I said, 4 broke me. I think 4 maybe wasn't as long as I remember it being, but I just once again it just seemed like it was pulling teeth. And a lot of my friends afterwards are like, when they came out with Metal Gear 5, they're like, I don't care at all, you know. And turns out 5 was like the least story of any game, but best gameplay. So if they can modernize gameplay for 3, that'll be a lot of fun for people.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
hoping
So
this MGS Snake Eater that's coming out, he said it's just a remake, right? So I don't know. I guess it's just modernizing the gameplay, so it's gonna be the same thing. But I'd like him to see. I would like to see Konami try to make a legit, Metal Gear Solid game. In the future, I don't think that franchise should ever really go away. And I would like to see that, but we'll see.
They did, and they made like Metal Gear Survive or some crap like that, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was pretty bad.
I feel like that's what I was trying to think of earlier. But MGS Survive. But I would like
Yeah,
to see
because
them.
it was post Kojima leaving, they made themselves a game that was in the 5 universe, and it wasn't very well received at all.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, like this feels like a money grab, and I would like them to make a serious. Like I feel like this was just like, I don't know. I don't know. This is just them throwing the franchise away. I didn't remember this coming out.
yeah, well,
But a
the
return.
only
I
thing
guess
we
what I
could,
mean is a return to form. But anyway,
they are they're letting they're making money off their current, well-known properties. And if they're revamping them, yay. And then maybe if they get enough money, they might actually start making video games again. Like,
they've
the
made
best thing they can do
something.
is license them out to other companies and then have them build off of it for them, which has worked for like Warhammer. But Warhammer like it feels like Warhammer will let anyone rent out their license.
Uh,
So
they did for a long time, and I think that's changed a little bit recently. There are still some bad games, but I do remember people talking about that, and apparently, because the quality has improved on some of those Games Workshop games in recent years. But yeah, you're right. Maybe they'll kind of maybe they'll do something good with it.
yeah. All right. We got here then uh Tower of Aghasba. I can't pronounce that.
I think it's Towers of Aghasba.
All right.
So yeah, so this is a weird looking world. That's seems I thought it was a builder game, and that definitely is part of it. But you thought it was there might be some survival aspects of it, like gathering up wood and stuff like that. Which I didn't really notice too much of, but now that I kind of think about it, it sort of makes sense.
It
But
just feels that way to me. I'm not really, I'm just speculating, but it's like I can totally see that being a key aspect because you're dressed very primitive, and so I can see the idea of it being a survival or at least having elements of that.
yeah,
Um, I mean, it's very fantasy whimsical as far as like flying sea creature esque things, stuff. It's like they they built a really neat world. I'm just not sure if I really care about playing in it.
yeah. I just wanted to mention it on here because of how it did look. How it does look, and it looks different from a lot of other things you see. Not with nothing like recognizable. They're not like throwing. They're not trying to get you to buy the game with oh, your favorite nostalgic character. So I was impressed with that, and I'm gonna look at it a little bit more. But I'm not thinking it'll be particularly great, but it was at least worth noting, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, and then afterwards you have here listed the Alan Wake 2. And I'm excited about Alan Wake 2. I actually really like the first game. And before we started recording, you had asked me a question of whether or not you should possibly play the first game beforehand. And I say absolutely. Uh, it's not a very long game. It's super well done. I think it still holds up. I have not gotten a chance to play through the remake. I barely started it, but I actually have played the original a handful of years ago, and I still like it a lot. So I totally recommend giving it a shot. Um, it's very well written, has good story, and it'll prime you because it looks like the gameplay is still going to be somewhat similar. I'm sure they're going to be changing it up and making it more fluid, especially since they've gotten better at like gunplay, for example, from Control. Um, so yeah, and Alan Wake is probably one of my favorite franchises, I guess now.
Yeah,
I did not really, they had the spin-off American Nightmare, and that one is kind of a little side story. It's not as necessary, but I mean, the fact that they've kind of already pulled in Alan Wake into the and Control all in the same universe. They showed a really good shot of Sam Lake, who's Max Payne. You'll know him as the character model for that, and he's in quite a few Remedy games. Just like he's a Easter egg kind of a figure. So in Alan Wake, he's the author of a detective series, and they don't outright they call it something else, but it's essentially it's Max Payne, and they show an interview with the character of like the movie or something like that. And it's on the little TV screen, and if you look carefully, you can tell it's Sam Lake, and they've brought in more Alan Wake stuff into Control, so therefore I think that's where they're going to go with this, or at least they're going to have a lot more influence because there's the way these incidences are happening. They kind of explain the idea in Control. So I really like the fact that they tied their own universe together, not just making it a fan theory, but making it like canon. But this
That's
one
cool.
looks really good. It looks like you're going to play as multiple characters, and uh, a lot of people seem to be talking about how Alan Wake now looks like John Wick. And I'm like, I see it, but at the same time, I'm not as hung up on it as other people are. But I've heard
Oh,
multiple like,
the new Alan Wake does look a little bit like John. Like, yeah, I kind of see it, but I mean, people are gonna grab at everything, and anybody with any white guy with shoulder length dark hair is kind of gonna look like that anyway. So I don't know.
yeah. Uh, like I said, there's not really much else I really want to know about the game because I just want it to come out.
But you're right. It
Re-
looks good. And I've known for a long time that you were super into Alan Wake. So with this one coming out, I was like, dang, I definitely need to play this one because I'm sure Joe's gonna get on this one. I was wondering if I need to go back and play the other one. And yeah, I mean, it's not super long, so I can probably knock it out before this one comes out. This one comes out in October 13th. That was it. Yeah. So just in time for Halloween.
yeah, for sure. So I'm most definitely, excited about it. It's the thing I was most excited for. But then again, we've already knew Alan Wake 2 is coming out. I was just happy to see some stuff about it.
Yeah.
So, all right, we have here the next one is RE4 VR, and this is also something that's been already announced, and we knew it was coming. It already came out for other VR platforms, but I think that might have been just the older version. I'm not sure if they did on Oculus like the new stuff, but the no, it looked really good. I mean, it was just like being able to parry a chainsaw with your knife. That
Like
seemed like it'd be terrifying.
I think this is specifically for like the reason they were announcing this is because it's coming out for VR2, so the
Yep.
PSVR 2. So I guess there's some upgrades or some better stuff maybe that they're doing with it. I don't know, but anyway,
Yeah, I just know that they modded the older version for like the Oculus and such. So,
right,
this is at least the new remake, RE4 remake, going to be in VR2, and it looks good. It's another kind of reason to buy PSVR 2. I've been hesitant. I really want it, but at the same time, I don't know, just not being able to use my back catalog and some other stuff. They announced some other bits for PSVR 2, like you mentioned, the Five Nights at Freddy's. Uh, they got a Queen song pack, and they're officially bringing over Beat Saber.
yeah,
So to PSVR 2, and those are all good things. But there's they mentioned was it Arizona Sunshine 2, which is just a very competent and very good VR shooter, zombie shooter. It was one of the if you look at a lot of lists, it was always one of the better ones to play in the first one, and they really hammed it up with the comedy on this one. There was Crossfire something or other, which was like squad based shooter, if I remember correctly.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I felt like I'm glad they at least acknowledged the VR too, because you haven't heard much else about it, and hopefully they're going to continue to support it. But there hasn't been a killer app for it yet. You know. All
Yeah,
right,
we'll see.
we have the. I put this on here. Dragon's Dogma 2. So this was kind of exciting because Dragon's Dogma 1 has like a very solid cult following.
Hmm.
I got really into it for a little bit, but it was one of those things that like I just couldn't. There was something about it that just stopped me. Like I couldn't quite. Like I tried getting into it, and I played a lot of the first, beginner area, I should say, and uh, I just couldn't wrap my head around certain parts of the mechanics or whatever. So I was like, yeah, this is about as far as I'm going. But I know some friends who just really went ham on it, and they love the fact that, uh, the idea of it and the concept, and so this is a lot of people are looking forward to a sequel. This is a long time coming, and yeah, looks like you have a couple new, or at least a little cat race or some sort, and a lot of people making fun of are using Skyrim references. The Khajiit, I think it was.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I saw that and I was like, well, I know of Dragon's Dogma, but I never played it, so I was kind of like, I don't really know what to do with this, but I know people will be excited about it. So yeah, the first game looks like it came out in 2012. Um, Dragon's Dogma originally came out in 2012, and then Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen on PC came out in 2013, and then Dragon's Dogma Online came out in 2015. So, yeah, it's definitely a game that I see around the internet a lot, but have never delved into myself. So yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 is gonna be a big deal. I think people are gonna go nuts for it.
yeah, and it was always a solid game. So I think it'll be a good alternative in the fantasy space. Um, so one of my biggest disappointments for the show was Marathon. Uh, So yeah, watching this, the trailer is amazing. It looks wonderful.
It's a
It's
CG
yeah.
trailer, right? Yeah.
So it's a very good cinematic trailer. You're seeing this figure machine run by, and then you see the Bungie logo in the background, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this Marathon? And sure enough, yep, I called it, and I was super like stoked. I'm like, yeah. Then it turns out, oh wait, this is a PvP thing. Okay, I'm out. I was so stoked about them just reimagining the original Marathon. For those who don't know, it's essentially it was the killer Doom app for Apple. It was a very competent, very solid shooter, and this is what Bungie was known for a bit before Halo, and yeah, it's just it's neat that they're bringing this into a current setting. Uh, I just have no desire to play a PvP style game. So that but at least Sony's finally putting them to use. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
there's
just
that.
wonder where they're going to go with it. It looks, the aesthetic looks cool. It does, the aesthetic does seem to borrow from Destiny. Not exactly, but there's definitely some similarities there that I see. There's definitely a lot more color though too. But yeah, I was unaware of this. You were schooling me on this stuff prior to the podcast, which is funny because I grew up with a Mac and I never knew about this game. But um, anyway, yeah, I want to see where they go with it. I wish I could have seen some gameplay, but maybe it's just not ready for that yet. But whatever that gameplay looks like, I'm hoping it's different than just your standard, Destiny style shooter. But we'll see. They've got to make their money. So anyway, but looks cool, and I hope that they can
Yeah,
change your mind
I'd
on it.
actually be okay with a Destiny style shooter over just a standard like battle royale slash PvP like combat arena.
Well,
That's honestly
I mean, I would like them to make a campaign. That would get me in, and you
that
know
for sure.
a
I mean,
campaign, Halo type game, whatever, Halo, Call of Duty type game campaign, and then have really robust, awesome PvP that they can make a bunch of money off of. That's fine with me. I just want to be able to buy the base game and play it, and then everybody else can have fun, shooting themselves and grenading themselves. I don't care. I just want to have like some sort of like, what are you trying to say to me? But anyway, we'll see. I hope they can change your mind, but you're probably right. They probably won't
Yeah.
be able to.
No, I just remember, it reminds me that, I don't know if you ever saw, Red versus Blue,
Yeah.
Rooster Teeth's, Machinima,
Hmm.
and they did a really fun thing where at one point when they were upgrading from, I think it was the Halo 2 to Halo 3 game engine, um, because it looked so starkly different, they had a thing where they essentially got blown up and most of the members got blown into the future, and so that's why everything was shiny and chrome essentially. But one of the guys was standing behind the explosion, and he wakes up in the old like pixelated marathon, and he got blown to the past. And so I'm like, that's pretty good. That was a clever choice they did.
You got to really know the lore, the Bungie lore there.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So hopefully, well, I said, at the very least, I hope it comes out. With, it should come out with solid shooting mechanics, and that'll carry it pretty far, I think.
Yeah.
So the next game we have on here is Foamstars. Another disappointment for me personally because I don't think it needs to exist. But in a world with you know, uh, you know, s- you need a non-violent first-person shooter, and if you want to face Nintendo, you're gonna go ahead and copy them. But yeah, this is just an arena. Uh, Nothing about paint. It's all about foam shooter,
Totally
and
different.
so
Totally different.
yeah, I don't know. What did you think about this one, man?
I thought I told you before the podcast that I thought that the CG cinematic cutscenes looked good, and then you were like, no, they didn't. I was like, yeah, you're right, they didn't. But they looked better.
They, I
They
don't
were
know.
the
It
best
looked like
look.
all the character models look really rubbery, and it looked like a Barbie doll come to life. And I'm like, this is really just an odd art style choice.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, okay, that looks kind of cool. Wonder what the gameplay is like. It's just like, all right.
It's Splatoon. I mean, they just
I mean,
like
as soon as
unabashedly say like we're gonna just take Splatoon.
as
But
soon as the
hey,
gameplay
kids,
started, I picked up my phone and did something else. I don't even know what I did, but I checked my email or something because I was like, "This is dumb." This it just didn't like it didn't capture me. I was like, "Splatoon, okay," um, and and then waited for the next cinematic trailer, and I looked up and I was like, "Okay." Their next cinematic cutscene, and then okay, they went back to like them shooting, and then I checked out again, and then I didn't check back in until the the next game played. But it's whatever. I'm sure someone thought this should exist, so I don't
I was
really
just
care.
like they have way too much clothes on to be a foam party. It's just
They yeah, you're probably right. They probably should have gone for a different demographic. The
that's there you
18
go. That
plus.
they should have had Team Ninja do it, and they'll have like a million different pieces of DLC. Uh,
Yeah, just like real. What do you call it? Dadgummit, if I hadn't have to think of it, a real Dead or Alive 6 vibe. That's what they needed.
yeah, yeah. So it. This is a thing that they're making. Okay. It'll probably be free when it first comes out for PlayStation Plus owners. That's my guess.
Oh, we can only hope.
And like the last one I put on here that I thought that was a fun look was Ghostrunner 2. Uh, it was I don't. Did you ever get a chance to play the first Ghostrunner?
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, it was free on for the PlayStation 5 for a while, I believe. It's a competent runner. Has a nice cyberpunk theme, and this one they made it looked pretty decent. It's essentially a good
Oh,
balance. The first game was a good balance between parkour and like it was like Mirror's Edge versus like I don't know murder sim.
I did want to
You
play
got a
this.
stylish murder essentially.
Yeah, I did want to
So
play this. I just, I missed it somehow. But okay, so it was good. So there's going to be a Ghost Runner 2. I guess I missed that one. I remember maybe I just didn't, I just tuned out on it. But okay.
yeah, they show the tower. If you, it looks, it's your standard corpo tower. So it's like
Yeah.
the Ascent, that kind of
Yeah.
smokestack looking,
Definitely has that aesthetic. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that trailer has him where the busts out of the building and then goes right down the building itself on a motorcycle. And apparently that motorcycle is supposed to be playing into some more gameplay elements. Uh, so yeah, because you needed a reason to go faster, and they provided one. So I don't know. It's just a simple, fun game. I really enjoyed the first one. It's nothing too I don't know, nothing too difficult, but at the same time, it was just like the perfect thing to zone yourself into and let forget about your day. And I think this is going to be equally good. I'm yeah, I'm not. There's no reason to be wary of this one for sure. So
Yeah, looks good.
yeah, that's been about it on the news front. Uh, right now, they have it's like there's been since we've last talked, there's been the new Nvidia cards launching, or at least the 3060, and not too many people are happy with that. So I'm like, all right,
I mean the
yeah.
4060.
4060. I said 3060. My
Yeah,
bad. Yeah, the 4060. So it's like, you know, uh,
I saw an
when you're
ad
getting
for it, and it was like it was quoting somebody, some magazine, and it was like a must have, and I was like, that's not what I heard.
yeah. I mean, I know a buddy of mine is just actually about to start building. He wanted me, I helped to like build a standard like 1440p rig, and I'm like, all right, like just go with the 4070 Ti. That'll semi future proof yourself. Because they were thinking about getting a last gen, like a 30 series card, and I'm like, no, you might as well just go. If you go 4070 Ti, you're pretty much at a 3090 power, with the new conveniences and the new tech of the 40 series cards.
Yeah,
And it's like it's more closer to his budget. He doesn't need a 4K machine, and he's currently running a 1070. So yeah, it'll be a hell of an upgrade for him. Yeah. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's almost as bad as me. Like, I mean, this computer, you know, I'm amazed at how long it's lasted. I mean, I've kind of fiddled with it, changed some things out, but the core of it is still the same as what I built in 2015, late 2014, I forget, but um, it's it will, if you get good parts like that, it will last a good long time. So that is one really great thing, because I honestly I didn't think that this computer would last this long, just even work this long, much less be viable as any kind of any kind of workhorse machine at all. But anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's got
I mean, as we mentioned before, we've your specs are now becoming your graphics card is now the bottom bare minimum, like
the bottom
for certain
the
games.
bottom of the
So
barrel for certain games. But damn it, if it's lasted that long, that's pretty cool. I mean, it still runs a lot of stuff at 1080p pretty well, well enough. I'm not, I am kind of embarrassed whenever I have to take footage from it, because it's like, well, this is pretty pathetic, 30 frames per second 1080p, if that footage. But it's whatever, it's fine. But yeah, 4070 should last your buddy a long time. I'm gonna get something along those lines at some point too. So
yeah. So all right. As far as what we've been playing, I know you've been traveling mostly, so you haven't really had a chance to play too much. For me, I actually like dusted off the Switch and decided to play some Advance Wars Reboot Camp.
all right.
It's I really like the original. I have the old Game Boy Advance cartridges. This one, not a big surprise. It's pretty faithful to the original. I haven't played the original for so long, so I can't really tell too much of the actual in-game differences for mechanics wise. But as far as the looks go, it's a solid look. I I'm not 100% sold on the way the sprites look, the little 3D modeling they have. I would have much preferred a 2D, sprite, because the actual character designs, uh, they're all nicely drawn, and it's really crisp looking art. And if they did that same thing with the units, that would have been amazing, I think. Uh, it might have been a little bit longer and harder to do opposed to these 3D models. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. That's just me speculating. But I would have loved to have 2D, just crisp, cel shaded artwork or something like that. Uh, yeah, no, the game's a lot of fun. If you like any tactics based game and you want something, uh, you know, Fire Emblem adjacent, like just that kind of simple gameplay that's fun and has its own challenges, I would recommend it for sure. Uh, that's really, and unfortunately, that's about all I've been playing.
Yeah.
I've actually had to do a lot of traveling this last couple of weeks as well, between this time of year graduations and stuff, and heading out of state, stuff like that. So unfortunately, not a whole lot of time to do too much gaming.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard good
were
things
you
about
able?
Advance Wars over the years, and it's one I would like to get into, but there's just too many things ahead of it. But I'm glad you got a chance to revisit it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of new things that have just come out, like today. Like for example, Street Fighter is coming out the day of this recording,
Hmm.
so I'm
I
I'm interested in that. But I don't know if my fight stick's gonna work. It's an older fight stick, so I'm not sure if it's gonna actually work on the PS5. So I might have to look into investing into a fight stick. Uh,
you can almost certainly get a dongle. I would I would bet you could get some kind of dongle, but yeah, you never know. And then yeah, it would be an excuse to buy like another fight stick, but yeah, like I did pre-order that or not pre-order. I just ordered it today, and I have to go pick it up tomorrow. I didn't have time today, but I'm gonna get that tomorrow, so I'll be playing that. And yeah, I'd love for you to play on PS5, but I'm not gonna sit here and ask you to do that because you already have a fight stick somewhere else. But should be fun, and should be talking about that here sometime soon.
yeah. The other thing that just came out a couple days ago was the System Shock reboot, or remake. And I'm actually pretty excited about that.
Okay,
It's once again, System Shock's an older game, so I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't know too much about it.
I know a little
But
bit about it.
essentially, yeah, BioShock is a spiritual successor
Yeah,
to it, and from all accounts, it looks pretty amazing. I've kept myself in the dark about a lot of it just because I didn't want to spoil a lot of it for me because uh, I missed it when it first came out, and I didn't get into it till after BioShock because actually, a lot of customers at the time were talking about the original BioShock, or not. I'm sorry, original System Shock, while they were buying BioShock, and that's it. Actually piqued my interest. I got into it. I'm like, wow, this is really neat, but it is a little clunky, and yeah, the things they've done to it. I've heard. I believe it was Night Dive Studios who've been working on this new one, and it seems like they've done a really good job. Like really really good. So I'm really interested in trying to check that out in the next couple of weeks.
yeah. The original System Shock, from what I understand, did a lot of weird things that people hadn't seen before. Has a near mythical kind of I don't know, aura about it. It really changed the way a lot of people thought about how you could do games and how games kind of work. So, yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the new one. I hope you get a chance to play it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And yeah, other than that, you didn't really get a chance to do too much of playing on the Switch with all your travels, huh?
I thought about bringing it, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna have any time, and I'm just gonna tempt myself into staying up late and playing it when I should be trying to save the energy for family. So, and I really didn't really have any time. So I didn't get a chance to play too much more Zelda. I did play a little bit more today, but man, like, there's still probably have like freaking 40 more hours of that game to play. So, I will be working through that. I'll probably talk about, Street Fighter before I talk about Zelda, just because, it's a little easier to kind of get the, the long and short of Street Fighter over Zelda. But yeah.
All right. And so for what we've been watching, it looks like you got to watch the new Guardians movie, right?
Yeah, I went and saw that while I was on vacation. Very good. I really liked it. It's 2.5 hours, right at, and the time goes by really fast. They don't like mess around or anything like that. So it keeps your attention the whole time. It's really good. It it's a bit of a tearjerker. There's some stuff in it that um, will that tries to get you to have an emotional reaction to it, and they do a pretty good job, I guess. But overall, the comedy, I thought this one was way better than Guardians 2. Seeing Guardians 2, I was kind of like, well, that was entertaining, but it wasn't nearly as good as Guardians 1. It seemed more like a parody of itself, a parody of Guardians 1. But this Guardians 3 really seems like a return to form. The jokes are they're just kind of better overall, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm not going to talk too much more about it, but it's worth seeing. If not in the theater, then whenever it comes out, it's a good Friday night popcorn movie.
All right, well, that's good to hear. I was let down by the second one, so I'm glad to hear that this one's better.
I think so.
How how much of the other MCU like lore do you need? Because I've missed the last handful of movies.
Um, I don't remember too many points where I was like, "Oh, I should have seen the Eternals," or "I should have seen that," or "I did see that, and that's why I understand this or that." As long as you've seen Guardians 1 and 2, you'll be more than okay, I think. And you could probably even go into this movie. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could probably even go in this movie without having seen any of that stuff and still not hate it. But you should at least see Guardians 1 and 2. But if you've seen that, then I think it's pretty self-contained. They don't
Okay,
really
yeah,
introduce too much other stuff, so I think you're fine to do that.
yeah, because I've missed I've missed Wakanda Forever. I've missed Doctor Strange. I was there a Thor movie? Because if there was, I missed that.
Unfortunately, yes, there
Uh,
was another Thor movie, Love and Thunder. Yes.
yeah, so I've missed quite a bit since like
I
pretty
just
much
got.
after shortly after WandaVision. I think most of the stuff after that I've just missed.
I can tell you
Uh,
those three movies you listed. You're you've if you haven't seen them, you've come out better than me because I have seen them, and they were all not really. Wakanda Forever was a valiant attempt. I'm not going to talk about it here. It was a valiant attempt, but all three of those are like very much forgettable. You don't need them. But anyway,
all right. Well, all right. Thanks for the update, and I'll at least look forward to Guardians 3 because yeah, I actually generally liked 1 and 2 was a slight, it was still okay, but it was maybe like 60 or 70% of the first, but that's just because the first was amazing. And
yeah,
I've said that more than once. Yeah, on my front, I got to watch the new Mario movie, and it was all right. Um, it was one of those things that like
another
I,
Chris
I
Pratt movie.
realized at a certain point, like, oh yeah, I'm old now because I haven't played the new Mario games because I completely skipped the latter half of the Wii and the Wii U, and I didn't have a 3DS, so the references to the new Super Mario games where
Uh,
you have like the cat suit and stuff like that, I'm like, yep. Like I'm pretty sure this is another reference or something to another game, something new stuff, but I don't know. It was all right. It wasn't necessarily. I don't know how to say it. I think I preferred the Sonic movie, the Sonic One movie over this. Um,
okay.
but then again, I think my expectations were generally lower for Sonic, and so I came out just better as a whole. I felt that some of the comedy landed a little bit stronger, while I felt like Mario was riffing off of a little too much nostalgia. Like I like the fact that there was some of the hidden like melodies and songs, like they were able to change the old theme music just enough, so it was like not as blatantly noticeable. Um, but I don't know, just there was something about it that I just didn't quite connect with, and I'm like, all right, it's okay. I mean, hearing
I've been
what was that Take on Me was like, we a buddy of mine had a debate on this one. He's like, I heard that they included that song because it came out in '85, just like Mario. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it came out. It's a great song, so they're just throwing any classic song because I Need a Hero did not come out in '85, but they threw that one in there too because I'm like before the end, like halfway through the movie, like I wouldn't be surprised if they threw the final countdown, which it never did. But I was just like, it's just like there's this classic '80s staples, and they just kind of threw them in there for, the sake of it. And I'm like,
because you
I
recognize,
guess,
yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of hit and miss. Like I don't like a lot of DreamWorks movie or not Dream. It was is it DreamWorks? The guys who do Shrek.
Yeah.
I really dislike them because that's all they do is throw in like pop
References.
music,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, that's lazy, I guess. Is the like I don't need then again I would prefer them to, I guess, do pop music opposed to making a musical like a Disney, because I don't like Disney musicals at all, really. But at the same time, I'm like, how about you just don't need to do that? Because you can make there's plenty of really good movies out there that do not rely solely on their soundtracks. um
Yeah. Yeah.
Guardians not included.
I was wondering, like, were there any like adult wink wink jokes in Mario, or was it all just straight only for kids?
I I don't. I'm trying to think now. So they make a lot of jokes to like certain referencing of like the I don't know, the earlier source material. Like they do the Super Mario cape, um, and that cape, but they do it they do a really good like All right, so spoilers. Um, Early on, like right in the beginning, they make an old '80s esque like VHS kind of ad for themselves as Super Mario. So it's a very cheesy attempt at making a commercial for themselves.
Okay.
And so yeah, they're the Super Mario Brothers, and it shows them like literally sitting on their bellies on a stool and like the wind blowing, and they have these capes on. So that's like the Super Mario World cape. And it's like that's their, they make reference to why are they wearing white gloves, and it's like we need to stand out. It's like a gimmick essentially.
Okay.
So that's I don't know. They had Charles Martinet play Mario's dad, and I'm like, that's nice, but also it's almost a slap in the face. I feel like,
Yeah. It's at least they got him
uh,
in there. Yeah.
but I do have to say the voice acting was way better than I expected because a lot of the people outright you can't really recognize them. Um,
Mm.
I I was telling a buddy that when I was watching, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad Jack Black doesn't sound like himself. He doesn't sound like Tenacious D or like Kung Fu Panda. And then he started to sing at one point, and I'm like, gosh, like I just had said how I was happy with it, and then it's just like, granted, it wasn't a long scene. It meant to be silly, but I'm like, it's more like eye rolling for me. Uh, but his role as Bowser was really solid.
Okay.
Most of the people, like, I understand that they made Princess Peach way more capable, but they also make her like a wandering orphan. So she stumbled, so she's not actually a toad turned into a human form due to the crown, like the Bowsette memes.
Mm.
Uh, so it's like, no, she's supposed to be human. And Mario, all I can think of is the SNL skit of making a Super Mario TV show like The Last of Us. Uh, I don't know if you have a chance to see that, but that's a great SNL skit. And at one point, they're
I
like,
have. Yeah. It's good.
"Yeah, Mario, why are you eating that?" He goes, "I need to feel big." That's all I was thinking about whenever he had to eat the mushrooms. Um, no, it was like I said, it was a good movie. It was just maybe not as good as or as great as I would like it to have been.
That's
Uh,
fine. I mean, my goodness, like it's crazy that it took this long for that to come out, but I guess Nintendo. Well, they had the kerfuffle with the first Mario movie back in the '90s, so they felt like they probably didn't want to do that again.
See,
Anyway,
I felt if they had it done it backwards, like this was the first Mario movie to come out, then they could make the original '90s Mario movie. They can make that as a today's thing, like a reimagining, and that would actually go over really well. Um,
yeah.
but because it went like, yeah, it's just
Well, they
now
probably needed to do a good animated Mario movie with like DreamWorks or somebody, Disney, but probably not Disney, but somebody that was a really good animation studio, or maybe one over in Japan, just do a really good animated Mario back in like, '95 or whatever. But there wasn't enough will, I guess, back then. Now everybody in our generation is totally, grew up with Mario, so there's a lot of people our age who are parents with kids, who are ready to, plunk down a bunch of money and see a Mario movie. So the time is right. But anyway,
yeah, I think they did a little bit, maybe one too many Mamma Mias, but
yeah.
they no, like I said, it was decent as a whole. The I think it's not a waste of time. Essentially, it's
Okay. Good.
uh so I'd give it a shot, especially if you've seen the original. Like it's just neat to see all the voices, like pretty decent, and Illumination did a very like it looks amazing.
Looks
Illumination really
nice.
did do a great job with that. So yeah, there's you know there's obviously going to be a long running franchise, and just waiting to see the moment it crosses over into other, like they're gonna have Sonic in it eventually, right? That's
Mm,
they
yeah.
made reference at the end of the first Sonic movie about um,
Mario.
yeah, like they because that's where Dr. Robotnik went, right? Or Eggman. He ends up like you see mushrooms in the background. So I'm like, all right, they'll do a crossover.
Yeah.
We already know canonically they play at the Olympic Games together. So
I finally figured out they make more money when they do crossovers and stuff like that, rather than just isolating. So, yeah, that's probably gonna happen.
all right. Well, if you made it to the end of the episode, we appreciate it. This was another Dead Pixel, episode 45. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, Nick, for being here today. And yeah, until next time, you guys take it easy.
Bye.